السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بيكم في تاني محاضرة ترجمة أدبية. Welcome to the second literary translation lecture, and in this video on page 27 of the book we are going to discuss the fourth question, which is so important in the syllabus, which is related to the features of literary rhetoric. What are the main features of literary rhetoric that we should pay many hours of attention and care while translating them from Arabic into English and vice versa? Rhetorical language is one milestone of literariness. It has conventionally been linked to literary language in particular, and when used in non-literary texts it's described as one of their literary features. Due to their central importance in literary language, some major and recurrent literary features are investigated shortly below. So, the first feature of literary language, or the first feature of rhetoric, is collocations. Collocation, simply speaking, is word combination. المتلازمات اللفظية. Word combination. One basic cornerstone of rhetoric is how words combine regularly and habitually together. Word combination or collocation describes words that are usually found next to other words or are co-located with one another. That is, they are found in the same places. Words keep company with one another in certain grammatical and lexical combination. These combinations are described as collocations. They are defined by Firth as actual words in habitual company. In the following page, we have some examples. In Arabic, for example, we have أوهن من بيت العنكبوت. It has an equivalent in the ordinary language, ضعيف جدا. يعارض بأحدهم، ينتقد أحدهم. مأمون الجانب، موثوق. سليط اللسان. In the ordinary language it can be translated or rendered into فاجر. جن جنوني، غضب غضبا شديدا, and so on. In the same way, in English language we have ordinary language and collocations. So while in collocations we have words like pitch black, in the ordinary language it can be rendered into very dark. In collocations we have in the meantime, ordinary language during that. In collocations it can be a man of honor, but in ordinary language an honest man. So please take care, if you are translating a literary text you should never use the ordinary language if you are capable and if you are or having a mastery in writing in collocations, because collocations is one of the features of literary language or of literariness of language. So as much as you can try to write in collocations, because it's one feature of the language that you are translating into. Okay? For example, in the light of, it can be rendered in the ordinary language due to, or to roll in money. In ordinary language, very rich, but if we put the translation to roll in money in translating a literary text, it's much better. So collocations as such can be grammar based or lexical based. It can be grammar based or lexical. Lexical means مفرداتي or معجمي. Grammatical collocations, to start with, can broadly speaking be understood in one way, to include all possible combinations of words as grammatical categories in certain normal sequences in the sentence of language. For example, he sent a parcel to her. or they described the house to him. She bought her child trousers, not she bought a trouser for her child, no. We came by bus. She decided to quit. They must work. We enjoy watching football matches. He challenged me to fight. I heard them cry. They saw him playing tennis. She denied that she had insulted us. All this in page 29. Lexical collocations, on the other hand, are arguably classified by Benson in terms of the grammatical classes of words, nouns, adjectives, and adverb. Namely, verb noun, noun verb, noun noun, adjective noun, adverb adjective, verb adverb. For example, bright light, a beam of light, cast light, light gleams, a light source, by the light of the moon, the light from the window, and so on. Lexical collocations are reclassified, interestingly, by Carter in terms of collocational restrictions. For example, we have unrestricted collocations, which describes the capacity of a particular word, قدرة كلمة معينة to be open، إنها تكون open يعني متاحة، to keep company with a wide range of words، مع كلمات أخرى أن تصاحبها أو أن تكون متلازمة لفظية معها. Examples are core adjectives, nouns, and verbs. Semi-restricted collocations, which embraces lexical patterns in which the number of words which can be substituted in different syntactic slots is more determined, such as harbor doubt, grudges, uncertainty, suspicion. Familiar collocation, combinations between words which keep regular company with each other. And D, restricted collocation, partnerships of generally more fixed and closed collocation, such as dead drunk, stark naked, pitch black, considered seriously. So they are fixed or restricted collocations. Okay, so in literary texts, however, there is an inclination toward using creative or unexpected collocations more than expected and familiar ones. In a poem entitled Fern Hill, Dylan Thomas uses unexpected creative collocations on a large scale. Here are the translations of these examples into Arabic from the same poem. Once below a time, once upon a time، كان يا مكان، في زمان غير هذا الزمان. As happy as the grass was green، أسعد من العشب الأخضر، في غاية السعادة. The tunes from the chimneys، الألحان من المداخن. Fire as green as grass، نار خضراء كالعشب. Or even more correctly, أحر من الجمر أو أحر من النار. These unexpected, or more precisely new, creative and literary collocations may reflect the psychological and mental state of the speaker, which is the poet, who lives far away from his factual world in a world of fancies and fantasies. The world is one of queer happiness, grading from the innocent days of childhood and youth under the apple boughs about the Litting House. All of these examples can be found in a poem entitled Fern Hill by the poet Dylan Thomas. So you need to support examples from this poem translated as in the book. Okay? So, in page 32, there the sun was shining all the time. Everything was lovely, playing and watery, not the least the hay field, which were as high as the Lilting house. Considered from different angle, some collocations can be metaphors. Accordingly, a good number of these collocations are metaphors that can be described as novel or original, such as honored among wagons, or prince of apple towns, or once below a time, or tunes from chimney. You need to support your answer with these examples. It's important. So, number 2. Beside collocations بجانب المتلازمات اللفظية, we have another feature of literary language, which is metaphor, الاستعارة. If collocations are the milestone of rhetoric in literary language, metaphor is its heart. Literary language is intertwined with metaphorical language. In Arabic rhetoric books, the metaphor is viewed as a kind of simile. For example, it can be defined as a kind of simile, which is a kind of analogy, and analogy is perceived by heart, realized by brains, and understood by minds, not by ears. Similarly, in his book Poetics, Aristotle views metaphor as a fundamental figure of speech. It's a trope based on similitude, or a simile compressed in a word, as defined in Johnson's dictionary as the major form of figurative language or trope, which has received the greater part of attention by writers and analysts. Metaphor is then a linguistic process. You see, a linguistic process or a linguistic tool used to make a comparison between the attributes of something, somebody, and something else. Of course, without the use of as or like. It's the process of transferring or transporting qualities from one object to another, from an animal to a person, a thing to an animal, a flower to a human being, a thing to another, etc. A metaphor was originally a Greek word for transport. Understanding a metaphor as a sort of transport implies that a metaphor transports concept from its normal location to somewhere else where it's not usually used or found. Okay? So, on page 33, we have another figures of speech that can help with metaphors in clearing the meaning. We have sanditon, a sanditon, police sanditon. We have pun, personification, similes. We have anaphora. We have parson and oxymoron. All these are figures of speech that you need to take care of while transferring a meaning literally from one text into another. In page 34, what about the types of metaphor? Types of metaphors, أنواع الاستعارات. Different types of metaphors have been suggested by writers. Here is an account of some of the different types of metaphor in both languages, Arabic and English. In Arabic literature of rhetoric, metaphor had generally several types. Here are the major types of metaphor and examples. Number 1, original metaphor. An inanimate noun used. He is a lion. She is a moon. Original metaphor. Number 2, derivative or supplementary metaphor. A verb, an adjective, or any derivative from a noun. He is shining, sharp. Or عضنا الدهر بنابه. 3. Overt metaphor. The image is stated clearly. For example, the athlete is an arrow. She is a fox. وقف الغضنفر على المنبر. 4. Covert metaphor. The image is not stated clearly, only a feature of it. He is roaring. So here the line is not stated. She is cunning. And so on. In page 35, absolute metaphor. The object and image are not features of it. The new leader cut off the head of the snake. 6. Extended metaphor. The new leader cut off the head of the snake, that bred small snakes and spit venom everywhere. It's an extended metaphor. Abstract metaphor. Abstract, non-metaphorical details about the image. For example, the new leader cut off the head of the snake that developed many problems in the community and caused dissatisfaction among people. So, as you can see, there are several sorts of metaphors and examples included. Of course, there are some other types of metaphors, such as dead metaphors, not used anymore, foot of the page, foot of the bed, to kill time. We have cliché metaphors, standard metaphors, cultural metaphors, and so on. In page 36, we have a part from T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, translated. So I need you to pay attention to the details of the translated text and attempt another translation explaining why have you changed in the proposed or suggested one. In page 37, we have another metaphor of features, another feature of literary texts, which is cognitive metaphor. A cognitive view of metaphor takes it not as a rhetoric byproduct of objective thinking, but as the basis of the human conceptual system, what we called الاستعارات المعرفية. That is, metaphors may be expressed in language accurately, for human thought processes are fundamentally metaphorical. Here is a literary passage from a novel by Winterson to analyze cognitively and then translate. Misery is a vacuum, a space without air, a suffocated dead place, the abode of the miserable. Misery is a tenement block, rooms like battery cages set over your own droppings, lie in your filth. So here we have the target domain, which is only one word, exclusively misery, as a vacuum, a space without air, a suffocated dead place, no stopping road. All of these words in the source domain expresses a web, شبكة, a web of cognitive images that are all related under the same target domain, which is misery. And this takes us to another feature of literary language, which is conceptualization. Conceptualization. Okay? So, in page 39, we have a suggested translation for the previous passage. Another feature of literary language is irony. In page 39, irony, the most difficult type of rhetorical style to realize, recognize, and construct in language, and hence in translation, is a method of humorous, sarcastic expression in which the intended meaning of the words is the direct opposite of their sense. For example, it's irony to call a stupid person very clever. Okay? Types of irony, page 40. Contrastive irony. Reactionary irony involves a statement or a comment by an addresser and unexpectedly opposite reaction by the addressee. Understatement, hyperbole, disguised. All these are types of irony that you need to be aware of while translating a literary text. And here we have a passage that is directly related to the feature of irony or irony in translating text. Joseph is a disgustingly hard-working pupil. He is the unpayable secondary school failure candidate for 10 years in a row now. A doctor of tea in the making. مشروع دكتور تخصص شاي. The title, which is nonsensical if taken seriously, the use of the ironical phrases مشروع دكتور تخصص شاي, the exclamation mark in the title and at the end of the text, the unknown exaggerative combination, unbeatable failure candidate, the unusual nickname, master of failure. All these figures or all these suggestions makes the text even more ironical, to help the text to be more ironical. Okay? We have another text in page 42 from Charles Dickens' Hard Time, and we have suggestions of translation. In page 43, we still complete the answer to the question, what are the features of literary language, which is repetition versus variation. Lexical repetition is one of the richest rhetorical and stylistic features of literary text with respect to effects and implications. It can be a repetition of the same word, phrase, or any grammatical or lexical structure a number of times in the same text. Variation, on the other hand, refers here to the words which are similar or identical to the key word used deliberately to avoid the repetition of the same word. In principle, repetition is one of the essential styles of rhetorical speech and writing that all speakers, listeners, readers, and writers use at will for diverse reasons to produce various effects. عنصر التكرار. Examples. Repetition in the Holy Quran is a style of rhetoric used for emphatic, expressive, effective, and other functions. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة. So it can be used for warning, threatening, or drawing attention and counseling, or repetitive predicate as an emphatic refrain For example, الرحمن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. Thus, the Holy Quran's style of repetition is understandably justified, and the English readership is expected to appreciate it. Of course, we have another example translated: the mist in the mirror. Rain, rain, all day, all evening, all night, pouring rain. If we count the number of the word rain in this passage, it's really huge number. So in the same way, we have to stick to the figure of repetition while translating it into Arabic. Now we have reached to page 48. Another example of variation. And still continue with the other features of the literary language. Next video, inshallah, we are going to begin with page 55, translating from Arabic into English, and what are the problems, syntactic, semantic, and cultural problems that we can encounter as translators while translating literary text. So, in this video, we have reviewed quickly, very quickly, answering a very important question, which is question number 4. What are the main features of literary text or of the literary language in general? We have discussed irony, repetition, metaphor, collocations with examples translated. So please don't forget to support your answer with the proper examples and these examples translated. See you next time, inshallah. Good luck.